So good morning, and thank you, Susie, for the opportunity to speak to you. It's a young university, so it's a young vice president, I guess. But I will tell you a little bit about that later on. I want to present you our concept of so-called university social responsibility. And what that is, I will get you to know. But first, maybe I can have 2 minutes to present you the core idea of Zeppelin University, because some of you may not know Zeppelin University. It's a small, pretty new German university, and so let's have some fast facts. The mission is, it's a completely privately funded university that is very unusual in Germany. We have around 420 universities here, and most of them are publicly financed. We are a research university, and our profile is to be interdisciplinary. We are bridging business, culture, communication, and politics. So we don't have faculties anymore, we don't have departments anymore, but we are, let's say, a social science and humanities university without borders within the university. It's very individualized. It's around 900 students, so it's Germany's smallest university we have today. And we always say we have 900 students and we have 900 course of study, so to speak, because the students can basically create their own course of studies. And it's a little bit international. We try to be international. It's not too easy if you are at the end of the world, so to speak, but I will talk to you about that later on. And as I said, it's one of the very few private research universities in Germany. Some more figures, as I said, 900 students. It will grow a little bit up to 1,400. We have a selection process, I'll tell you later on. We have staff 204. It's around 80 or 90 faculty and 110 in the university management. And we have 64 international partner universities. So that you have some, it's not a story, but it's some pictures here. We also have a castle close, close to the university that will be important for one story later on. As you can see there in the very south of Germany, at the Lake of Constance, pretty beautiful place, but that's actually one of the problems. And I want to start answering the question, why does a small private university engagement in society at all? Because in Germany that's not very usual. Most of the private universities, most of them are just business schools, just have business, and their main goal is to have a good teaching, to make their students, mainly men, good careers. So there is no need to have civic engagement, so to speak. And I have two answers for the question why we do that at all. One is we have to do it because we are in a surrounding where just to feel well, we have to do it. In 2003, we started the university. The setting, it's a small city of 55,000 inhabitants. There is no university so far. There is one, the University of Constance, but that's at the other side of the lake, so that's another country, so to speak. There are mainly engineers, if you have academics at all, but mostly there are no academics. It's a working people surrounding, and you have lots of prejudices starting at the day where we said we start up a university against private universities. It's rich kids, they are all showy, they are unfriendly, professors are showy or nosy or whatever at all. And so that was basically the setting where we started in. And so we asked ourselves what to do. We want to live here a couple of years, we want to work here, and we want to feel well. So one answer was actually to connect to the local society, to the region. And the start was maybe one anecdote, people calling me one morning and saying, 2 young men want to live in my apartment together. Are they homosexual? You know, so you see, there is no culture of academics, there's no culture of university and young people. Within the first month and maybe the first 1 or 2 years, the people of Friedrichshafen learned, yes, students do sports, yes, students even do party and drink, yes, students can even do babysitting and be helpful. And also scholars, people with a professor title or PhD, they can even integrate in our sports clubs and associations and so on. So it was a very intense learning process for the city and for us. And that was basically one of the reasons that we choose a strategy connecting to the society very intensely. Nowadays, 2% of the inhabitants are Ziules, are students or staff and faculty. So that's quite a sum, and the university within now almost 10 years has become an integral part of the city's life. That would be one answer. We had to do it because otherwise it wouldn't have been fun to work there and to live there. The second answer is more a historic answer. Zeppelin University goes back kind of to 1898, 1900 to Count Zeppelin. Maybe you have heard about him. You know probably this vehicle here. Nowadays there are not so many around anymore, but there was a time in the 1910s and 20s where there were lots of Zeppelins around. And I don't have time to tell you the whole story, but what happened is that basically out of the companies Count Zeppelin founded, there was a foundation established, the Zeppelin Foundation, one of the big German foundations, and they basically gave the money to 2003 to start up this university. Now, if you have basically this foundation starting in a university instead of a ministry starting a university, and if you have lots of private people, lots of companies supporting the university financially, you basically have something what we called, it's a university out of civil society for civil society. So that's the philosophy that we say we can only be there because, not because of government, not because of states or nations. We can be there because people give more and do more as they have to. And that's basically the genetic code of the university that we say that's why we have to be there for society as well. So that's basically the second answer to the question, why doing civil engagement at all? The approach we call Humboldt 2.0, not very seriously meant. It's the integration of research, teaching, and services. So, you know, Humboldt said, let's integrate research and teaching. They can profit from each other. And we say the third pillar, and it's evenly or samely important, is services. That's what we call university social responsibility. It's approach of six integrated parts. We deal with widening participation, for example, with the question how to integrate people who are not very familiar with academic settings into academia. We try to develop social entrepreneurship activities and entrepreneurship activities. I want to focus on 3 of them now and give a little insight of our strategy there. It's community outreach, it's community service, and it's service learning. So let's start maybe Ms. Shaban, she was there at one time, is the community outreach activities. I told you the setting, small city, basically at the end of Germany, not much around, not many things going on. So what we do basically, we invite more or less famous people out of business, culture, media, and politics to the university. They give public speeches, and then basically the people from Friedrichshafen and the region come and join those sessions and those discussions. That works very, very well. If you see, we have yearly 12,000 participants in a city of 55,000. That's really a lot. Some of the people, basically, they come to us and they say, wow, that's a pretty great alternative instead of watching RTL 2 in the evening or so, to do something real and to meet other people. So that's something where you can, over the years, feel that people come as something that is totally normal, come into the university in the evening as they go to the theater or as they go to a restaurant, and integrate then with the students and staff and faculty there. That's one point we do. Community service. If we talk about genetic code, then you can have that genetic code within your staff and faculty if you are a young university and they basically they are socialized with that. But you have students changing every semester, right? They are there for 3 or 4 years, then they are leave the university again. And what we try to integrate is basically this idea of getting out of the university within our application process. So if you want to study with us, you have to do a pretty intense application process. What we do, we have around about 300 to 500 people at our application days or selection days, and half of that selection day is basically out of the university, and we solve a problem out of the local community. So we go to, let's say, the Bahnhofsmission at the train station where they deal with people, old or handicapped people. We go out to social enterprises. We go out to other companies, and they present a problem, and the students applying, they basically solve that problem as part of the application process. And the nice thing is that basically they start basically to identifying with this idea of students getting out of the university already basically before their university career even starts, at day 0, so to speak. The other part is that we have lots and lots of student initiatives. They in all fields, in sports and social terms. And what we started to do 3 years ago, roundabout, we set up an accreditation office for those student initiatives, that basically those student initiatives who want to professionalize, who want to do it long term, they can apply, and within that accreditation office they can get certain support structures. They can get money, they can get communication support. So we basically leverage those student initiatives in their aim to work together with society. The third part, service learning, and also community-based research, a very important part. It's integrated in the curriculum. So we try as often as possible, not always, but there where it fits, to integrate social phenomena into the curriculum. It's seminars with regional empiricism, where people really do something. I present 3 examples later on. And what we found out during the years is that if we do that, if you engage in projects integrated into your curriculum, you basically don't need any extra ethics seminar. You don't need what there is a big discussion going on since financial market crisis, Hippocratic oaths or similar things. Because people basically learn how to behave ethically if they are integrated into those community outreach projects. So, to sum it up, the genetic code, co-creation of students and university. And the students are the main leveraging factor of the strategy of the university. So if you have a handful of professors doing basically community-based research, that's the one point. If you have 1,000 students, in our case, or if you have 10 or 20,000 students doing community engagement, then you really have a leverage here. I have 3 little examples, so to make it a little bit more clear what we are doing. I was talking about the castle. The castle is Salem Castle. Maybe you know Salem, a small city 15 kilometers from our place. There was a task. The task basically the mayor brought to us, and he said, Salem has a problem. It has no city center. So it's basically spread around some kilometers, a little, I think, 8 or 10,000 inhabitants village. It has no city center. And he asked the university, what can we do about this problem? So what we did, integrated into a regular course in our curriculum called Regional Diversities in our Communication and Culture bachelor course. We started a project, and students, they basically led a caravan, and they created something called Mittenmobil in Germany. So it was about the Mitte, and the Mittenmobil basically drove around the village and interviewed people how they want to have their city center. So here you can see some example where people gave statements and said, our city center has to be like that, our city center has to be like that, and basically started to have a participating process, and I think more than 1,000 people out of 8,000 inhabitants gave their comments, and that those results basically were integrated into a concept then which was developed together with students from an architecture faculty from Stuttgart. One example, a very regional example, basically an integration of service learning and also community-based research, because the professor used it also for publication of his. Example 2, so you see it's not only basically around the university, it's an example from Berlin. Maybe you have heard about the Rütli school, the Rütli campus in Berlin. It was a school that was very much in the press some years ago, because there you had this clash of cultures, clash of Germans and pupils with a migration background, and Rütli School basically asked us to have to proceed a development process that the school is undergoing and to do research on that. So that was also integrated into a seminar within the students, stretching over 2 semesters. And the third example was an example with the Stuttgarter Zeitung. They basically came with the question, how can we have a strategy attracting the youth to read a daily newspaper, and not on the iPad, but in the print version. And they basically brought the task in. That was a project not integrated into a seminar, but connected to a professor. And the students, I think a team of 12 students, they basically developed a strategy for the Stuttgarter Zeitung in that case. So, what's the message at this point? What we experienced, we started all those projects on different levels. You can see here, regional, national, some international projects. Sometimes they are integrated into a curriculum, sometimes they are not. They are always with students. So that's basically the one very important part. They are always integrated, students, faculty, and some community member. But what we basically learned, that we have to professionalize and have to change from a project to a system focus. That's very important, because it's good to do projects. It's good to do a Salem project. It's good to do a Rütli project. But what do you do basically if you grow? What do you do to professionalize the structure? And what we decided to do, to set up something, I will present now, that has 3 premises. We have to change from the project to the system focus. We need an integrated system of social engagement and measurement, very important point of its effectiveness. We need a university-wide system. That was important to us. No focus on certain subjects, no focus on certain people, because if those people leave, basically the activities break down. Or no certain focus on member types. And what we were really interested in is to have a 2-sided approach, not only basically to say, hey, we are interested in migration studies, so we go out and we do research on something, and then we come back into the university and that was it, but to have more an outside-in approach. So to ask basically society, what are your problems? What are your needs? And to bring those problems and needs into the university, and to ask students and faculty, are you interested in working on that issues? That is the system. All the details, just ignore them. The relevant part is here in the middle. We created a so-called social venture and research team. You have, at the moment, 1 full-time employee. You have 5 students. You have 3 faculty. You have representatives of 2 other stakeholder groups, can be entrepreneurs, can be teachers, can be someone from society. And that social venture and research team basically coordinates as a central agency all engagement with society. So we choose a very centralized structure here. The projects are done decentralized, for sure, but basically that team of 6 or 7 people, they have the overview of all projects. They set up basically a knowledge system, so we still know in 5 years what we learned in the Salem project, but because we were maybe asked to do such a project in another city. And just to show you the process here, it's a very easy process. I told you we really like this idea of outside-in strategy. So basically you have an inquiry into the university. So the mayor of Salem called us and said, I have this project, can you do it? We have a 24-hour quick response policy. So within 24 hours, basically, we give a first answer whether we think we are able to do the project or we are not able to do the project. People really like it. I don't know how it is within your universities. In Germany, it's pretty normal that if you ask a university, you never get an answer. So this 24-hour policy is really, people really like it. Then we have basically the SOVA team, Social Venture and Research team. They basically ask students, they ask scholars, they ask staff, are you interested in doing it? How can we set it up? What's the structure? Is it integrated into a seminar? Is it not integrated into a seminar? What we need for that is basically an overview what our 1,000 people are doing. And we have that. That's probably one of the advantages of a small university. Then basically we set up a team, we have a response to the inquiring institution or person, and the project can start. So that is something what is really essential to us, that we say, let's not only bring what we know into society, but let's really bring societal needs into the university. There are, just to give you a figure, we had around about 200 inquiries last year. We realized in the end 40 or 45 projects. So not every inquiry is successful. I think that's important. There is a policy also what we can do, what we cannot do, but let's say around about 25% are being realized. So that's what I wanted to show you as an example, how we define university social responsibility in a young university, where basically the genetic code of the university is being there for society. And I want to close with that picture. I think if you want to do project with society, you have to be mobile, you have to be in society, not in the university or not only in university. So that's one of the things you need, some good bicycle to be there where it burns, so to speak, where things are going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.